translate that for our...
You think this is your municipality? Yeah, but like I don't understand. How do I think this is my municipality? Yeah, you think you can do anything you want in the municipality. My attempts, of course, of trying to calm down Dr. Mkhwanazi didn't succeed. She was genuinely angry that there was even an attempt or even talk of extending the suspension of Mkhwanazi. Now, she indicated that, of course, she's going to call Xolani to deal with this and tell Xolani that Mkhwanazi must be back at work the very next day. At the end of the call, she instructed me to facilitate the return of Mkhwanazi to work. And I must update her by 11 a.m. the next day that Mkhwanazi is back at work. I've known Dr. Mkhwanazi since 1999, when I was in the trade union movement. I met her at Springs when she was a manager in the health department. I had never experienced such hostility from her.
I just want to understand something. So this is now May 2023.
Yes.
Up to that point, your discussions were with Chief Mapiaya and the head of HR. You had never discussed the Mkhwanazi issue with the municipal manager.
We did. Remember, we discussed the Mkhwanazi issue with the municipal manager on the 16th of February.
In Feb.
Yes. When we briefed her that we are going to engage in a process to investigate the allegations as per the Jeff Weeks media query, and also if potentially institute disciplinary proceedings, and also suspend Mkhwanazi. All of that was discussed, and we had her support on the 16th. After the 16th, I had never discussed the issue with her because there was no need insofar as I was concerned, because my processes, are clear. Now, this comes in my. This came out of the blue, came out of the blue, and I interacted with Dr. Mkhwanazi on a number of issues. I would be in her office, she would contact me. At no point was there ever even a request for an update to say, by the way, how far are you? What's happening there? Nothing. So you could imagine that I've never had a discussion with Dr. Mkhwanazi after the 16th of February. Now, the 23rd of May comes this call, and at the end of the call, I am told that Julius. You leave Julius alone. So, yeah, it was quite a shocker. It was quite a shocker, and I don't know, should I proceed?
Before this incident, had Dr. Mkhwanazi ever intervened in a disciplinary matter with you directly?
Yes.
In what circumstances?
Yes. It was not at the level of a disciplinary hearing. In 2017, there is a case that had arisen in our communications and also, customer relations management department, CRM, where the head of department at that time had caused an investigation to be conducted against the activities of a divisional head.
When you spoke to her in February, where you say she supported the proposed course of action, did you explain what the nature of the allegations, even if not in detail? Did you explain to her the reason why suspension is a likely path that you are taking? Did she
Yes.
become aware of all of that explanation?
We explained that these are the allegations. We explained the media query. We explained the Madlanga connection. We explained the issue of the registration of the vehicles. We explained the issue of the operational plan, that we're not even aware that there was CAT VIP involvement in the State of the City address. She expressed shock because she was the city manager even at that time. She was also not aware that there was CAT VIP that was involved in such in that particular State of the City address. So we explained everything, and honestly, she responded like what a chief executive officer would do. The allegations of serious misconduct, investigate them, suspend the employee, ensure that your processes are implemented.
Did you ever become aware, or do you have a possible explanation why the change in her position from the seriously supportive, as you describe, in February, and this kind of engagement and instruction to discontinue? Did you ever come to know why there's that change, or at least have a view about what would explain such a drastic change to the other extreme?
I can only express a view because I do not have evidence of it. But what became clear, even when I engaged the chief, remember, in February, when we took a view that let's go and engage her, one of the things that the chief raised with me was the proximity between herself and Mkhwanazi. So the only thing that in our assessment we could come to is that Mkhwanazi would have gone to her to indicate that this is what is happening. And therefore she intervened because there would have been a request. Because in terms of EMPD, nothing official had gone to her office. In terms of HR, nothing official had gone to her office. In terms of Tlashega and my engagements with Tlashega, there was nothing. So the only person that would be a factor in this entire situation would be Mkhwanazi. There is no engagement with chief, there is no engagement with HOD HR, and at this point there's no even an engagement with the legal HOD. At this point, the only person that in our view would have had that particular access, would have convinced her to take this posture, is the person that is the subject of the telephone call.
It's highly suspect, and yet there's no consequence for it. And it has serious implications because it has someone who is accused of serious misconduct, very serious misconduct, who goes unpunished because those who have power by virtue of office, they use it to circumvent lawful processes. They're basically the law, collective agreement. It's a form of subordinate legislation, and they subvert the law for no rational basis. Surely it can be, that's the end of it, and there's no consequence for such people.
You are correct, Madam Commissioner. It can be the end of it, and it shouldn't be the end of it. And perhaps critical in your analysis is the abuse of power by people that are in authority. This is a classical demonstration of such. You have people that are in authority, they step in and they cause something like this to happen. But not only did they cause something like this to happen, other things flowed from it. You have a person who was supposed to be disciplined and potentially be dismissed in June. In December, that person gets promoted. By who? By the very same people that stopped the discipline. The very same people that stopped the discipline. There's another issue that I'll be raising later on in terms of the effect of this stoppage. And you could see that indeed what was at play here is a serious, and as by deviation would be
a mild way.
It's to say that there was a deviation from processes and procedures would be, it's kindergarten language. And I can't find the right language to actually describe
blatant
this.
disregard of the blah, blah, blah.
Blatant abuse of power in disregard of the law.
If the evidence leader would allow me,
You have the chairperson's permission to speak freely.
freely, okay. You have a situation here to show, I just want to show how this thing actually played out. The dismally charge is stopped on the 20th of June. 2 weeks down the line, a report gets served that seeks to give Advocate Kemi Behari and Linda Gashega a 600,000 rand increase. And that report does not provide any basis why such increases must be effected. These two people are appointed on the 1st of March 2023. They are still under probation. 4 months after their appointments, a report gets generated seeking to provide them with massive increases. And nothing has actually happened in the intervening period between March and July in terms of municipal processes. What is in that report speaks exactly to what they had in March, but in July, that is used to say these people must get these massive increases. I can only suggest or opine, but thank you. You are aligning yourselves to the instruction. You've aligned yourselves to the instruction. You've aligned yourselves to what I want as the city manager. My person is not to be touched, and you've ensured that my person is not touched. Here is an increase.
Unless, of course, there's evidence that on their appointment, the terms of their appointment was that at the end of the probation period, they would get increases. Yeah. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying maybe it is some way.
There is no such. Doesn't exist in local government.
You are the expert. I will not.
There is a regulatory framework that deals with what is called the upper limits for the total remuneration packages of municipal managers and managers directly accountable to municipal managers. That thing is determined by the Minister of Cocta. There is a framework on how such salaries are to be determined, how even cost of living adjustments are to be effected. But for the first time in the municipality, again, immediately after having protected Mkhwanazi, increases were effected. So for me, it's yeah.
I'm going.
Madam Commissioner, I was not involved with the selection process, but I do know about it. And again, this is another demonstration of how disregard, to use the chairperson's language, disregard for policies and procedures has been a norm of late in the municipality. Firstly, and this is from my understanding in terms of even my engagements, even post my suspension, because even though there was this directive, I do get engaged by people on a number of things. The selection panel that was used, I would criticize it. This was a position of a divisional head level, very senior, in the police environment, which is a very specialized environment, specialized in its functionality, specialized in its regulation. Then you have a selection panel where it is the chief of police, of course, who's an expert in policing. It is the HOD-HR, who knows nothing about policing, with all due respect to herself. It is the HOD, Sports, Recreation, Arts and Culture. Nothing about policing. Now, the problem with how recruitment and selection happens in our environment, and this is a criticism that I even actually made in a matter where we were a respondent in an unfair labor practice dispute relating to promotion. And the criticism that I made, unfortunately for the municipality, we won using that criticism, is that we have a situation where the actual suitability of a candidate for appointment is premised on an aggregation of the scores. You aggregate the scores of the three panelists. And then, having aggregated the scores of the three panelists, the candidate that has got the highest score gets to be the one that is recommended. Now, in a situation like this one, the two people that are not experts on policing, I have not seen the scores, but I can tell you now, would have scored Mkhwanazi better than the person who's an expert on policing, because there's a predetermined notion that he will be promoted, come hell or high water. That is the first point of call, before even getting to the other steps, how this thing was structured. It had a predetermined outcome. So whatever the chief of police scores do not be used as a benchmark of how the person is answered. If the chief of police scores the candidate 2 and the other panelists score the candidate 4, aggregate the scores, that candidate becomes the highest scored person, even though the expert said these answers are not correct.
Is that a fair criticism, though? What options were there within the municipality to constitute the panel differently, taking into account what you're saying about experience, that the people who know anything about the environment should not have been there? I think that's a nub of what you're saying, that you've got two people who know nothing about policing. What would have been the options available to the person constituting that panel, apart from the chief, who is an obvious choice? What options would there have been for the other two?
The options that would be for the other two are informed by what has happened with previous appointments at that level in the EMPD, all right? Because this was not the first time that the EMPD was having an appointment of a deputy chief of police. It was not the first time, you know. So in previous instances, you would have the chief of police and the head of department disaster and emergency management services. The head of department disaster and emergency management services is the closest, because that person is involved in the uniformed service. In the uniformed service, and indeed there are those overlapping functions that actually are involving both EMPD and DAMS. We call them DAMS, Disaster and Emergency Management Services. So the precedent in the municipality has always been that DAMS HOD, even if it's an acting HOD of DAMS, would sit with the chief of police.
All right.
That has been the precedent.
Okay.
But I can tell you now, there's been a number of instances where when we are having a divisional head position, specific individuals are then drawn to be the panel because a particular outcome will then be determined. Specific individuals that are consistent in the panels for divisional head positions.
I interrupted you. You were still explaining what you know about that process, that ended prematurely, the selection process, but somehow
Yes.
Brigadier Mkhwanazi was selected.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner.
Please hold that thought. Let me continue the interruption. On the facts that you are aware of, why do you think the city manager was as invested as she was in Brigadier Mkhwanazi? I wanted to also include Ms. Tasheka, but I'm not sure whether I should, because at some stage you said that she didn't want to be shouted at and wanted to see the finalization of the DC process without a hearing having taken place. So maybe let me leave her out of the equation for a moment. So why do you think, on the facts that you know, the city manager was as invested as she was in Brigadier Mkhwanazi?
Thank you, Chair. I think, Chair, there's a point, I think it was I'm not sure it was yesterday or early this morning, when I had to give a view on the proximity claim. And I indicated that when you look at the hierarchical arrangement of the municipality, there shouldn't be a proximity between the two individuals. But nonetheless, that proximity does exist. And perhaps one would have to then investigate what informs this proximity. Because this proximity, in my view, is what then informs the municipal manager's attitude, the municipal manager's conduct when this individual is involved. When this specific individual is involved, there's a number of matters that we've dealt with this municipal manager. A number of matters, including HODs, including other people that were even in her office, directly in her office. But this was unprecedented. And the only thing that one can opine is that it is unprecedented, and it is the type of conduct is informed by things that are extra. Is there extra organizational? There's extramural activities, So there's something that is beyond organizational arrangements that, in my view, exist between Mashazi and Mkhwanazi. That would then inform the proximity claim. That would then inform the conduct of the municipal manager in respect of this individual, protecting the individual, not only protecting the individual, advancing the individual. There's so many things. You have a situation where, and it's just unheard of in the municipal environment. A person gets appointed to a position that is the equivalent of other positions, and there are other people that are occupying those positions. This one comes now, umafikizolo, literally this is the mafikizolo. But then the mafikizolo gets to act and be the supervisor of the people that have got more service, more experience, more qualifications, more this, more this, more that. But this person gets to act. And these ones never get to act at all. For as long as Chief Mapia was on leave, was put on special leave, was suspended, one person acted. Council policy on acting is clear. There must be a rotation of acting. But there's no rotation of acting. This person gets favored above everybody else. And there is no rational basis in terms of the institution, in terms of processes of the institution that I can think of that would put the municipal manager in that position where she has to make sure that this one person enjoys protection, enjoys benefits, enjoys everything. There is nothing institutionally. So then it has to be on a personal level. The allegation against me and Chief Mapia is that we are personal against Julius. I don't know how do I become personal chair. I don't even know the man. I've never seen him outside of uniform. I've never seen him outside of uniform. I've never even met him at a funeral, except for a funeral of an EMPD official, where even then he's in uniform. But I'm personal against him. I don't even know his stays. I don't even know his family. I know nothing about him, except for the fact that he's an employee of the municipality. You know. But here, clearly, there is some personal relationship.
Based on what you know, would you say that Ms. Xasheka's claim that she did not want to be subjected to continued rebuke was the full answer to how she herself conducted herself with regard to Brigadier Mkhwanazi?
My understanding of Ms. Xasheka and her tenure as the head of department HR, which would have commenced when her predecessor left the institution, I think it was at the end of July 2022, and then Ms. Xasheka was appointed to act in the position from August 2022 until the 28th of February. She was acting, and then she got appointed from the 1st of March. There is no other rational basis that I can think of that would make her, as an HOD HR, to act in the manner in which she acted, except for her fear of marshals. Because that is how she has always addressed herself.
That's exactly what I want you to address. On the basis of what you know, do you think that the manner in which she acted was indeed motivated by her fear for Ms. Mashazi?
Nothing else.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It's 4 minutes.